Hello, everyone, and welcome to Something Rotten. For you, it has been a couple weeks. For Blake and I, it's been more than a couple weeks, because this is a special question and answer episode, what we do at the end of every season, but it's an extra special episode because I am talking across the damn Pacific Ocean. Blake is in Japan.
皆さん、こんばんは。ブレイクです。Jacob Geller さん、バカですよ。でも、Something Rotten Podcast 楽しいですね。What's up? How's it going?
That's right.
Did you
That's
catch
the
all
end of
that?
our
You
episode.
notice that?
Yeah, I think you said I'm a really cool and nice podcast host, and you missed doing it with me. This has probably been the longest, not the longest that we've gone between podcast recordings necessarily, but like the most we haven't really spoken in the past like 2 years. You know, you send the nice "Good morning, fellas" message at 9:20 p.m. every night. But other than that, it's like we're awake at opposite times.
That's like deep lore. I don't know if like people really know is that every morning for years now, I've sent a good morning message to Jacob, AJ, and our friend Mitch. And there's an intentional typo in it because one time instead of writing fellas, I wrote Dellas, and I of course, got roasted for that within an inch of my life. Now I say GM Dellas
Yeah,
every
it's
morning.
a
But
real "was the grink there" kind of text.
yeah, but now that I'm in Japan and there's like a 13-hour time difference, I can't decide if I want to send it my morning or my night, which would be the opposite. So I just kind of send it interchangeably. But Jacob, this should not surprise you. Every day I do send a good morning and a good night text, not to my beautiful partner Sam, but to my dad, and it is to for him to give to Reagan.
Oh, good. Damn, you missing Reagan?
Brother, you cannot even imagine how much I miss Reagan. I'm literally here for over a month. It's an insane amount of time to be gone.
So how are you feeling as a temporary resident of
Oh.
Japan? Because you're not doing, it's like when I have traveled abroad, it's like I'm a tourist, I'm going to this city and then I'm going to
Mm,
that city, but you are like there doing work. Also, we should say you're working on books for Lost in Colt, specifically
mhm,
the Suda 51 book, which people can order now. So you're
mhm.
working, but like what's your like living experience?
Wow, here's the thing. This has been an interesting thing to learn. Usually I've come to Japan. I have been a man with a house but not a home for a lot of my life. I never felt like I wanted to live in Kentucky forever and certainly not Minneapolis forever. I was a wanderer. So I'd often come to Japan and be like, I'm never leaving. Or I wouldn't want to leave, obviously. I'd have to leave. But it would be always very, very upsetting when I would have to leave. And so when I had the experience that, or like I was planning to come for this trip, I knew I was going to be here for a long time. Like I would be here for about a month. And then Sam would get here for she'll be here for 10 days. So I knew I was going to be here for like 6 weeks or whatever, which is a long time. And I was like, no problem. This is, my home, as it were. What I didn't realize was, in fact, I had found my home, and it's New York. And I have been dealing with some pretty gnarly homesickness for like quite literally, Jacob, the first time in my life. I'm not like a homesick person. Like historically, I've traveled and I've been like, this is rad. I don't have to be where I don't want to be. And now it's like, man, I miss Astoria. Um, but Japan's great. I love it here. I'm already thinking about how I want to come back, even though I'm only like halfway through my trip.
Where am I
Here's
talking
the
to you in? What city are you in?
well, I'm in Tokyo.
Okay.
I'm I'm going to Osaka tomorrow, and I'll be there for a night, but that's the only time I'm really leaving
Gotcha.
Tokyo this whole time. Um, I hate to say it, I'm in Akihabara, which sucks. If I can be frank, it's not my scene. I don't think anyone who listens to the show would think I'm an Akihabara man, the gamer neighborhood or
Oh, okay. I
whatever.
was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the manga gamer neighborhood. Historically, it was like an electronics neighborhood. Like you
Uh-huh.
go buy like crazy little electronics. Then like there's still some like little areas where you can find that stuff and it's really cool. But like just as luck would have it, through a series of foibles and unfortunate events, I've ended up here and to the great island nation of Japan. I don't think you're infallible. I don't think you're perfect. However, I do want to apologize on behalf of all the tourists because that's a rough out there, but not the French tourists. All right, I can't claim what's going on there, but the American tourists, that's pretty rough, and I'm really sorry about that in Japan.
Is
But
that is
it
that
is
where
interesting.
Grasshopper is located?
And no, and I'm not going to say where.
Okay, but they're not. I didn't know if the like video game
The,
studios would necessarily be in
no,
the gamer
no.
area.
I do not believe there, to my knowledge, in any video game studios in Akihabara.
Oh,
And of the video game studios I have been to in Japan, none were in Akihabara. Um, but yeah, you spend enough time in a place, it starts to wear on you. You start to have your daily annoyances. And I've certainly got them, but I think, look, in a lot of ways, I have to compare New York and Japan, and well, New York and Tokyo, right? And man, Tokyo really whips New York's ass in a lot of ways. Like just the basic experience of riding a train is night and fucking day. But here's where New York science has prevailed over Tokyo. Motherfuckers gotta learn how to walk on this fucking sidewalk, dude. It's
that's
driving me
New York
fucking
science,
crazy.
baby.
My legs are bigger than the average Japanese person's because I'm taller. It's just like people will just stop in the sidewalk. They can't decide if they want to walk on the left side or the right side. Sometimes it depends where you are in like a building. Like sometimes like you'll enter the subway and it'll be like walk on the left side, but then you turn a corner and it's like, okay, you got to walk on the right side now. And then there will be like 40 people stopped. And this is not even factoring in the fucking tourists, which are making things crazy. And then there's so many people all walking in different directions. It's been really rough, man. Also, it's kind of hard to find vegetables here. I really want some fucking vegetables. Like my body is melting on the inside. I'm having the worst fucking shits of my life.
Wow,
Just want
really
some
living in the
fucking
gamer
vegetables.
neighborhood now. The fucking Asmongold
Um,
lifestyle.
on the other hand, like it's safe here for well, it's safe for me here. I understand I don't share the lived experience of every person, but it's clean. The weather's been okay-ish. I have a coffee shop right next to my hotel. Shouts out to them. It's called Ego Land Coffee, EGOLAND. I'm like a regular there now, so I go and hang out with them and like talk to them. And
Yeah, are they
I
like
speak
the
just
white guy's back?
no, no, no. They serve a lot of tourists, but I think I'm like one of the only people who probably goes there every day
Okay.
and for this amount of days, you know what I'm saying? Like I've been going there for longer than the standard vacation. But I speak just enough Japanese and they speak just enough English that we can work it out. We can like help each other when we're like communicating and shit, and that place really rocks. And Grasshopper's been great. I met Suda51 the other day, so that was sick.
Yeah, you told me you
Um,
talked for 3 hours and got to like his second game.
Yeah. Well, we got to the silver case, which is Grasshopper's first game.
Okay, so
So that's about the verboseness I'm working with as an interviewer these days. But also, like, I was thinking about this. I was like, am I wasting this guy's time? I don't think I am because he was like, yeah, when we did another book, I did 10 hours of interviews, and I was like, all right, cool. But I was like kind of self-conscious about like not using I was like, I feel like I'm not using my time wisely as an interviewer. I was like, I had 3 hours and I clearly bungled it. And I'm gonna have to like now schedule all these Zoom calls and take up more of this guy's time. I was thinking about it, it's like I'm here to essentially write this man's biography, right? Like it's a book about Grasshopper, but it's really a book about Suda. Um, and I feel like I would be doing him a disservice if I got the whole thing in 3 hours. You know what I'm
oh
saying?
yeah, well, and also here's
Um,
the thing: like people aren't mad at talking about themselves. No one's like stop asking me questions about my life.
yeah, it wasn't even the longest interview we did. I'm not gonna say who the longest interview we did was with. It's not for the Grasshopper book. It's for a different thing.
Miyamoto.
But that was four. It was Shigeru Miyamoto. No, that was 4.5 hours, and I didn't even ask all the questions I had. I could have gone for way longer, but I was paying a translator. I was like, I'm running up a bill on
I was
company
I was
time.
actually gonna ask because even in English, I think I would start having anxiety about just like, damn, this has all got to be transcribed. like this is like hundreds of pages of transcription, and let alone having it to be, transcribed first in
Mm.
Japanese and then translated to English. I assume.
No, you don't transcribe the Japanese.
Okay, well, it's being translated. Like it still has to go through kind of two levels of
Well,
translation
it
and then
depends how
write it down.
it depends how you do it. Like if I can just I have an interpreter with me. So if I could just transcribe what he says.
Got it.
Right. In a lot of cases, I do actually pay for retranslations, and this is not a slight on any interpreter, but like imagine Jacob just repeating this sentence back to me, and like you might miss something,
Well,
right?
and
So a
especially,
lot of
yeah, it's
times,
like you have to, simultaneous translation has to happen so
yeah,
fast that the nuance gets
yeah,
a little lost.
exactly. And who I work with, Gavin Green, shouts out to him. He's literally like the best interpreter I've ever worked with. I've worked with a lot. Shouts out to all of them, but Gavin Green, he's the goat. Go to him for all your needs. But it's like I don't think he would be offended if I was like, yeah, man, we're gonna get this retranslated so that someone can listen to the actual Japanese audio and type it out. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna be doing that because Lost in Cult's probably gonna be checking the books soon and be like, you did fucking what? But I will say something I did not expect us to ever do. We might be doing out of just like a random conversation I had on this trip, and it's fucking nuts. Um, so
Hell
it'll be
yeah.
really cool. Anyway, that's Japan, baby. Minasan konbanwa, baby.
Well, Blake, that sounds awesome. Here in North
Yeah.
Carolina, I do have some big life updates. For instance, I beat the video game Yakuza 0, which you've commonly
Wow.
cited as the best story in a video game.
Yeah, I stand by it.
That I loved it. I'm really interested in like what what is the thing about Yakuza 0 that puts it above like the other Yakuza games for you? Because I felt like it was a little more internally consistent, but like I wasn't like, man, this is head and shoulders over 7 or whatever.
Played it first, didn't it?
That might
That's why.
just be it.
No, but like God, I hate this question because now I got to reveal like I played it in 2017. I haven't fucking played it in full since
That's
then.
fine. It's a
But
fucking 50-hour game.
yeah, I mean like I think its scope really worked, and I don't mean like the length of the game, like the scope of the narrative. It didn't get too out of control,
Mhm.
like Yakuza games often do. Like God, Yakuza 6, I remember there's like a big fucking boat comes out of the ocean. Anyway,
The
like
Yakuza
those
games,
games
they
get fucking
always
insane.
have a fucking piece of infrastructure that you're like,
Yeah,
this is impossible, and then they forget about it after 30
yeah.
minutes.
And it's like Yakuza 0, I'm sure does that too. But
There is a part where they're on a boat in a river, and then the boat goes like down, and then there's an underground fighting ring, and you never go back to
yeah,
it.
I will be there tomorrow. That's Dotonbori in Osaka.
Oh
So
shit! No,
I
you
guess
should
the name. Yeah.
absolutely take some like compare. Be like, I'm on the bridge in Sotenbori.
Never before. Um, but yeah, I also like think the specific time period in that game is really interesting. Like the Japan bubble economy is like very fascinating.
Hmm.
Japan's hubris is an interesting thing to kind of learn about. And that game, I think, does some pretty funny and fascinating things with like its setting, like the mid '80s Japan. I also think like, look, Majima's great. He goes, "Oh," and it's real fucking funny. We all love it. Ha ha ha. He's the better fucking character in Yakuza Zero. Like that is the infinitely more interesting Majima. Like, by and it's not even like a contest in my mind. Like that character, like the peaks and valleys you go through with him, and that the blind lady, amazing. The scene where spoilers, Nishiki is like pushed to his limits with Kiryu, and he's like going to shoot him in the back of the head.
Yeah,
He's like
he's
screaming and
like it would
crying.
be he's basically like your life is going to be so horrible that like morally
Yeah,
I should shoot you right now because they're going to like torture you to death in so much
yeah.
worse ways than this.
And Nishiki's like the main antagonist of Yakuza 1. And it's like, I'm sorry, Yakuza heads. I think he's fucking nothing in that game. And yeah, he's the main antagonist. But like, Zero, dude, Nishiki, your fucking boy. Oh, dude. And the scene when Majima's in like the fucking masseuse parlor. Masseuse, I said that very weird. Masseuse parlor. Um, and like him and the dude are fighting. They don't want to make noise because like he's blind.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's
fuck it.
that part is so there are
That
little
game,
scenes that are so good.
that game goes so dummy hard. I just, oh, it doesn't have some fucking weirdo cult and just like Yakuza 8 does. Um, yeah, I just love that game. I should replay it. It's just kind of a slog. Those old Yakuza games,
Yeah,
the
though
slogs.
I did more or less mainline it, and it was like fine. I was a little worried that it was going to be like under leveled, but like you know,
Yeah.
you just buy like 20 torrenters and you're you're
Mm.
good. Um,
I
good
oh,
game.
also what's sick about that game is they got, and this is not exclusive to this game. Sorry, Jacob, if you'll allow me to nerd out for a second. Like those games are Yakuza games, so like they have put a lot of homages to like Yakuza cinema in their movies and like hired a lot of those actors, including a lot of like legendary V cinema actors. In Yakuza 4 or 5, Sho Aikawa is in it. That dude's the fucking goat. But the three antagonists in Yakuza 0 are like literal like fucking V cinema Yakuza movie legends, including my literal goat Ricky Takeuchi, who I guess they're also in Ishin.
Well, that's what I was
Uh,
going to say. Is I played Ishin first, and they're all on like the
mm,
kind of like
yeah,
shogunate council or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I went back and I was like, oh, it's these guys. I love these guys.
yeah. Ricky Takeuchi, who's the dude with kind of like the pompadour. I guess they all have very
Is
similar
he
hair.
Kuze? Is he the guy who's on the
He,
motorcycle?
no, 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 no. That's a different guy. No, Ricky Takeuchi is the one who he shoots the girl or whatever
Oh
during
yeah,
at the
I know who you're
dancing
talking about.
club.
He has kind of like a little doughy face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, the amount of movies I've just pulled out of obscurity to watch just because his ass is in them. Like, I love that fucking guy. One of the great failures of my life is missing an event here in Japan where I could have met him, but so it goes.
Anyway,
Um,
Yakuza 0. That's what I've been doing
I,
back in
I've
good
played
old
some
US
games.
of A. Yeah?
I played some games. Yeah, I played a bunch of Grasshopper games. I don't, take it with a grain of salt. I'm writing an official book for them, but the 25th Ward's like one of the best things I've ever played. It's fucking unbelievable. Yeah, 25th Ward is just like an incredible feat of video game making. Like it just is what it is. And yes, I'm in a paid partnership with Grasshopper. What can you do? I don't know.
What can you
Still probably
do?
more ethical than your favorite video game YouTuber that isn't Jacob Geller, but the
No,
company I'm
Blake, I don't know if
writing,
you've
yes.
heard. I'm a woke clown who hates gamers.
I haven't had the chance to play that game yet, and we're not going to talk about it, I guess, but been difficult.
The game
Stop
being
tweeting,
Silent Hill
y'all.
2. I can say that what
Yeah,
the game is, but yeah, I'm on it and
yeah.
learning that no one knows what a video game consultant does. Gamergate doesn't know, but also people who like me also don't know.
I know what they do. They put Jewish stuff in the
Blake, there was Jewish stuff in Silent Hill 2 original. That's what
I
those people don't know.
know.
There's
I
fucking
know.
Hebrew in
I
that
know.
bathroom. Let's get to
Hebrew in
some
the bathroom.
questions. Oliver
Sorry,
writes
yeah.
in.
If you ever write an autobiography, you should call it Hebrew in the bathroom.
Hebrew in the bathroom. Oliver writes in and says, hi, Blake and Jacob. Just wanted to ask where you guys discovered new books. As someone who read a lot when I was younger and almost completely fell off when I entered high school, Blake is still laughing about Hebrew in the bathroom.
Actually, I remembered another joke I told that Sam got mad at me for, but you backed me up and said it was funny, and it was Hebrew in that cough.
Look, that's classic.
Listeners at home, one time I told my beautiful partner Sam, "What's up, Sam? This is a main feed episode, right? She doesn't pay for the
Yeah.
podcast." I said I'm gonna go to the coffee shop and I'm gonna walk in there and I'm gonna say, "Hey, is it my partner's Jewish? I'll add, and I'm an honorary because I'm dating her and I'm my friend. I'm friends with Jacob. I said I'm gonna walk in the coffee shop and I'm gonna say, "Hey, is it Passover right now?" Because he brew in that coffee and she didn't think it was funny, but Jacob did. So
Yeah,
that's
that
what
is
I was
pretty
already
funny. I don't
laughing
think you
at.
should say it, but it was good. Anyway,
Too late, I published it.
Oliver says they completely fell off of reading when they entered high school, but they want to get back into it and have lost on where to start. Libraries/bookstores give me major decision paralysis, so I was just wondering if you had any other suggestions on ways to discover cool stuff.
Cool book
Cool
specifically.
books. I will
Oh man,
say, go ahead.
I hate that last sent. I don't hate it. That last sentence is hard for me because like That's how I discover new books. Is I just walk into a bookstore and literally judge books by the cover. It's like, cover's cool, let's rock.
I will say
So,
the if you're going to libraries, which is I think if you're not ready to buy a book, hey, libraries, they got them for free. The Dewey Decimal System is your friend in that, like, if especially if you like reading nonfiction, which I do. Going to, it's like you use that, you look at kind of the different categories. I will often just wander into the like space section or like the politics section or whatever.
yeah.
And then, it's like then you're in among a bunch of books that are all about like drugs or and it's like then it's like if you can kind of narrow down a topic, then I can just pick stuff out. Blake, I actually just read a book and I want to tell you about this. It's not a very good book, but the pitch is crazy, which is there was a guy who worked at NASA in like 2003 who stole a bunch of moon rocks. He stole like a safe full of moon rocks with intentions of selling them basically, but also when he got them, he like put one of the samples of moon rocks under his bed and then he had sex with his girlfriend on it to say that they quote unquote had sex on the moon. That was like a real thing that happened.
Real legend right there.
Yeah.
Real man of genius, Budweiser. You remember that? Real man of genius. Mr. Having Sex on the Moon.
That
That
book
fucking
that book was
rocks.
called Sex on the Moon. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I do think that just like
Isn't that the lyrics to the Frasier theme song? Well, baby, I hear the music calling, having sex on the moon.
yeah, that's the reboot specifically.
It's 9:30 p.m. here, folks.
Anyway, I think like just putting yourself in a section. Another good section is like there is just like a film section of your library, and when you go there, it will just be a bunch of books about making movies, either generally or specifically. And so I wander in there, and I'm like, oh, there's a book on making 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm gonna read the hell out of that, and it's like, the entire library is very intimidating. Sections are easier. That mostly goes for nonfiction because I mean, it's like you can find the horror section at your library or something, but there's so much more fiction and it's so much harder to know what's good that I don't know. If you search, here's the thing that you can do that I can tell you to do. If you search my Twitter, if you go to from at JakobG42 on Twitter, I think just let me see if I can find it. It might be recommendation. I tweeted a while ago, like, hey, do people have... Is Twitter search broke? It might be.
You get shadow banned?
Yeah, I probably got shadow banned. Dude, I think that Twitter search function might just be broke, because I just searched from JakobG42 book, and the only ones that are there are from the past week.
Oh, click latest, not top.
Oh, that's okay. You're right. That's probably what it is. Anyway, there's
Professional Twitter searcher.
I just asked like, hey, everyone, give me a book recommendation, and there were like hundreds and hundreds of recommendations, and I've just like gone back to that thread and looked at more things that people have said, and so it's like not everyone can just look for, ask a million people online, but like you can look at that.
Did I give you one?
Here, search pitch me a book. Pitch me a good book. I don't think you gave me one, Blake. I mean, you've given me books to read in the past, and certainly on this podcast. Want to name some of those off for Oliver?
In the Miso Soup.
Hey.
The Horror. What books do I like? Emergent Tokyo. Real big fan of that book.
You love that porn book?
The Other Hollywood. The Death and Life of Great American Cities. I'm a big Camus fan. Something I know about me as a white man. I love my boy Albert. I fuck with him. You know how many books I bought in Tokyo?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. It's a
Actually,
stack. Oh my gosh.
There's some more there, but I can't talk about what those are. They're not bad. They're just for work. Yeah, I got a veritable stack over there. Here's the thing. There's a book neighborhood in Tokyo, Jimbocho, and believe it or not, Jacob, I spend a lot of my time there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to second Jacob's recommendation, but like I do that at bookstores often. Like, what am I feeling? And then I'm not like wandering the entire bookstore. I'm just going to like the sociology section or
Yeah.
the horror thriller section or the books on movies, books on, yeah. And that way it narrows it down because, like, some these bookstores are fucking cavernous these days. It's like Jesus Christ. So like just pick a genre, then go, and hopefully that'll help your decision paralysis.
Blake, before we move on to the next question, it's 8 a.m. in the morning for me, and the light's coming through my blinds. Do I look like Heather at the beginning of Silent Hill 3 with like the light patterned on her?
Well, there's only one thing I can say to answer that.
It's bread. Okay, there are two emails that I want to read that are kind of related. Where Blake, you might remember that we ask people to write in with their 9/11 memories from not 9/11 memories. If they're in high school recently, what did they learn about 9/11 and the ensuing war? And so these are a couple. This one, gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't copy paste the name. But they say, hello, Blakeup. I just listened to the bonus episode, and you guys were wondering about how the Iraq War is talked about in high school, and I'm recently out of high school, so I figured I'd said something. Blake wasn't entirely wrong with his summary of how it's talked about in history books, in which it goes over 9/11, and when I was younger, every history textbook actually ended on 9/11 in social studies classes, so 3rd to 8th grade. That's crazy. That's just like, and then the end of history, 9/11. However, in high school, it went more into the Iraq War, but it was very bullet pointy. As in, it's essentially, we were attacked, but then Lord Bush sent a counterattack and started getting us oil, and then Obama finished the job. And that's the extent of it. Oh, this is why I like this one. Very boring and plain, I know, but it gets even better with certain teachers. As a native North Carolinian, born and raised in the meth pit of NC that we call Gastonia. Blake, did you know that there's a North Carolina place that's basically called Gastown? Like in Mad Max?
Isn't Gastonia that dude from Bloodborne? Father Gastonia?
That's right. Anyway, shout out to Gastonia. I had some characters teach this subject. The main one being my American history teacher that loved the movie Far and Away, who would also talk a lot about her family owning slaves, and she would practically worship Bush and everything he did and would show us, quote unquote, cool footage of soldiers and bombings and other attacks on the U.S.
No!
That's crazy. She, as well as some other teachers, also talked about how much
He said attacks on the U.S. Attacks of the U.S.
Attacks of the U.S. That's good distinction. She, as well as some other teachers, also talked about how much they love watching their kids play Modern Warfare, where they kill Arab people, since it was like, quote, well, they started it, and it was virtual justice to them. That's crazy. Anyway, thank you for that email. They also say, Blake, where can I listen to Region Free? There's only like 10 episodes on Spotify.
I think it's on YouTube. There's an episode on YouTube with like 50 or 60,000 views. It's really insane. It's my most successful podcast episode of all time, actually. It's Region Free. I think it's on YouTube. Let me look.
And while you're looking, I'll read John's email. They say, I was a junior in high school in 2014 when I took U.S. history. This was in a small town in Indiana. The class officially covered U.S. history up until the 80s. Then, on the last 2 days of class, there was a somewhat informal, here's what happened since then, but isn't in any of our textbooks discussion. What I can remember is our history teacher saying the initial invasion of Afghanistan as a response to 9/11 was largely condoned by the rest of the world, but that the subsequent invasion of Iraq was not. There were no talks of WMDs or atrocities committed by the U.S. that I can remember. Obviously, this was 10 years ago at this point, but I wanted to write in my experience.
All right. Right on. Really quick, there are 7 episodes on YouTube.
Wait, that's less than Spotify.
Yeah, I guess so. The Ricky O episode does have 38,000 views, though. Thank you very much.
Hey.
My most listened to podcast of all time. Yeah, that's crazy, man. The American education system, it's not alone in being kind of...
Oh, yeah. No, look, across the world, they're bad at talking about things.
Lots of countries like to be like, it wasn't our fault. We were just the victim. But yeah, that's insane to hear about. God bless America, man.
All right, you want to read this one from James? Hopefully, it's not from James Sunderland.
He knows what we think about him. I was super excited to hear that my favorite boys were jumping back into Call of Duty and Spec Ops for your ball crushing session, dick flattening session. But yes, yes. But the
I like that it's a different thing.
I like that he got it right because I only do have one, and he didn't put plural. Do our listeners know that? I only have one
They
because
do
of
now.
cancer. This is not a crash joke. I had cancer. When the conversation of the Black Ops episode became how much the story wanted to rewrite American interventionism, I couldn't help but draw a connection to Call of Duty's biggest competitor, Battlefield. Specifically, Battlefield 3, though it's been close to 10 years since I played it, I remember playing as American forces who actually fight WMDs in the Middle East and where a missing nuke gets detonated in France, seemingly justifying any action the characters have to take to stop the other nukes from being used. Love the show and how the conversations Jacob, Blake, and guests have about some of my foundational childhood media recontextualizes what I was pumping into my brain at such an early age. Keep up the work and can't wait for what's next.
I thought this question was interesting. Yeah, just because, like, weirdly, I think of Call of Duty games as defined by their campaigns way more than Battlefield. I know that a bunch of people only buy COD for the multiplayer, but, like, I played the Battlefield 3 campaign and 4 probably, and like Bad Company 2, but I just think of those games as like playing Rush, playing the other multiplayer modes, which were fucking awesome. But yeah, that's good. The only part of Battlefield 3 campaign I remember is like you're on a train at some point, and I think it's through a series of like interrogations. It's kind of like a flashback story.
The only thing I remember about that game is when I saw it on G4, I was like, this is the best looking video game of all time.
It had that fucking vibe. I mean, there's still people bring up that fighter jet mission in the campaign, which is like looks basically photorealistic.
Yeah.
You play what's your favorite? I feel like Bad Company 2 is now the one that was.
I've only played one of them,
which was 3.
I played the World War one, and I didn't like it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Battlefield 1, I guess.
Battlefield 1.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I do remember playing that and be like, this is the greatest looking video game of all time.
I really liked Bad Company 2 a lot. That was, I mean, it was like the destructibility was so cool, but also just like, it was big, but it was like manageably big. I love that shit. Okay, Gregor Young writes in and says, "Hello, you two? ? Huge fan of the show. Has been listening since the Max Payne 3 days. God, I'm old. I've just finished listening.
That was only like 2 years ago. It's 4 years ago.
4 years ago. I just finished listening to the last episode of the Spec-Ops The Line, one of my favorite games ever, and was quite surprised no one mentioned the soundtrack that, for me at least, has been stuck in my mind ever since I played it, especially Truth Revealed, No Values, and Welcome to Hell. I realize as I'm writing this that the soundtrack is obviously not what the game is known for, but I still think it deserves a little shout out and wonder what thoughts you had, if any, on said soundtrack. Love from France, Blake."
Come on. I've had enough of y'all in this lately. Answer me this, Gregor. You get to ask me questions. How about I flip the script? Why y'all stop in the middle of the sidewalk when you're why y'all do that? It's driving me fucking crazy, y'all. What if Gregor's in Japan right now and he's like, "Oh, what a piece of shit. That redhead that got so mad." I thought the licensed soundtrack was really cool in the game, which I realize is not the question, but I thought it was rad.
That's interesting because I did a video on Spec-Ops The Line that came out recently, and so I was working a lot with the soundtrack just because like that's what you do. I do really like the soundtrack. It's this like very kind of reverb heavy guitar stuff, which is cool. I actually think the licensed stuff is one of my least favorite parts about the game. I think that a lot of the songs like are lyrically relevant but don't actually musically match the like mood of the scenes. And as I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, I like my brain like doesn't hear lyrics. I like don't interpret lyrics as being like words I should think about. And so for me, a lot of those scenes with licensed songs fell a little flat. But I love the original soundtrack of the game, and I agree that it's like it's very memorable, and it's cool that it has
Yeah.
a sound, especially because it's like if you listen to a lot of COD soundtracks, as I have, they're all just kind of like big drum beats and bass. They don't really sound like
Mhm.
much.
You want to know here's some interesting stuff about the composer.
Yeah.
First off, he's Czechoslovakian. Just I don't feel like you hear about Czechoslovakia very often. It's not a country that pops up very often. You know what I'm saying? When's the last time you're like, oh, he's Czechoslovakian? It's been a while, hasn't it? Wow. Yeah, you're shaking your head. Yeah, Jacob, it's been a
I
while.
took a big drink of
Uh,
water, but I'm shaking my head.
he was the composer for the horror movie Wrong Turn. Remember that one? Remember that?
Nope.
Pretty cool stuff. Um, he was the composer for Pulse 2 and 3, which are the sequels to the American remake of the Kiyoshi Kurosawa film Pulse or Kaido. So there you go. That's
Cool.
pretty funny. Pretty interesting. Oh, he was also the composer for Pulse. There we go. Um, he was the composer for the video game The Last Express. Ronin, starring Robert De Niro. Battlefield Earth. And he's also written 3 ballets. So shouts out to Elia Kamral.
Blake, what's the last piece of media you took in where you were like, damn, that soundtrack is crazy, or just like memorable?
Um, Two answers. 25th Ward. It's the first one. And then it was a rewatch, but like I guess the soundtrack didn't hit me the first time I saw it, but the film Rubber's Lover by Shozen Fukui, rewatched it the other day and I was pleasantly surprised to find the soundtrack on Spotify and been kind of checking it out. But the 25th Ward remake, I guess, re-release, whatever. Akira Yamaoka helped out on that, and so they added some new songs and there's some fucking bangers in there for sure.
Speaking of Akira Yamaoka, some of his
What?
other work goes fucking crazy. That's all I'll say. Um, I
Chill. He worked on the game. Chill.
I recently rewatched a movie that was already one of my favorite movies, but Under the Skin by Jonathan Glazer. Have you seen that movie?
Sure.
The Scarlett
Yeah,
Johansson
yeah,
one. That is a movie basically like made by its soundtrack because there's so
yeah,
many scenes where there's like no dialogue for an extended period of time.
yeah.
That movie, man, very highly recommend. It's Scarlett Johansson going around Glasgow, kind of abducting men. One of the underrated best parts of the movie, where Annie was watching it for the first time, specifically the people in Glasgow that she is talking to have such strong Scottish accents that it basically does not sound like they're speaking in English at all. And it works for the movie that she is talking to these people who ostensibly speak the same language as her, and it's like you're getting every like 3 or 4 words. And I've spent time in Scotland, and there would be times when Annie was like, I didn't get any of that, and I was like, he's asking her if she needs a raincoat or something, but it's like it's so it is so heavy Glaswegian accent. It's awesome.
It's been a little bit since I've watched it, but I revisit the soundtrack pretty often. So it wasn't the most recent thing, is what I'm saying. But the film Burst City by Sogo Ishii, who now goes by Gakuryu Ishii, Gakuryu. One of the most important Japanese directors of the last 40 years. I mean, we come on, we all know him. Burst City is the soundtrack is mostly done by this like punk band, The Rockers, I think they're called, and they fucking rock, dude. That movie's so good. And they have a song called Wildfire in the Supermarket, and it's such a fucking banger. It's on Spotify. I really recommend it. And I really recommend watching Sogo Ishii's films. His film, The Crazy Family, I just watched it recently. One of the best things I've seen all year. And it came out 40 years ago. When you know it.
Last thing, I've been playing Metaphor Refantasio, which like
Yeah.
all Atlas games has a soundtrack that kind of goes crazy.
You wouldn't do this publicly. I'm gonna name and shame Jacob Geller right now. You wouldn't do this publicly, but in our private lives, our love life
Uh-huh.
together, You used to make fun of me so much for loving Persona 5 Royal, and now you're playing a little
I
metaphor,
don't
and you're
think
like,
that's
"Oh, this
true.
game's so good." It's so true. Or maybe it was AJ who would make fun of me. Either way,
Because I've always Persona has always been a series where I'm like, I bet if I played that, I would like it, and I just don't.
it
You
is.
make fun of every other Persona fan for saying "quote unquote" best girl.
Yeah, because I don't think a grown man
I
should call
I agree with you, to be clear, but like between the two of us, you do way more roasting of Persona fans than me.
I'm just saying, I don't think a grown man should call a high school girl, fictional or otherwise, best girl. That's suspect, bro. Look in the mirror and evaluate your shit. Reevaluate your shit.
Refantasio
I
your
don't.
shit.
I just don't fuck with that. I just don't fuck with that personally. That's just it's just not my thing. Anyway,
Um,
let's move on to the next question.
Metaphor doesn't have romance options, so that's one thing. The sound in that, like the soundtrack in that game is great, but also it's like in like the quiet break rooms, the soundtrack is like it's like there's a lot of
I've
like
heard.
chanting, and it's not
Yeah,
necessarily only when the game is like exciting.
I've heard the soundtrack is pretty nuts in that game.
You should just
I haven't
listen to
played
the
it.
battle theme. The battle theme is
Mm.
so crazy.
I'm really behind on games, as you might have guessed.
Uh, these are two questions from Spencer.
Mhm.
Well, one is just
Yeah.
kind of a thank you to Blake. Howdy, Blake and Jacob. Hope I'm not too late to get some questions in. First, unrelated to the show, I wanted to share with Blake that I saw Echo Astral in Indianapolis in August. I found them when you tweeted about them, maybe a Pitchfork review. Pink Balloons is my album of the year, and that show was a top 3 show of my life so far, so thanks for that.
Shouts out. Shouts out to Echo Astro. On brand, baby. Shouts out to DJ Horse Jeans.
Uh, Next question. Before we do this, Blake, you saw Civil War, right?
No, it's playing in Japan right now, so I think I'm
Oh,
gonna go
okay.
see
Well,
it, but I have not seen it.
maybe we can skip this question. I don't know. Spencer asks, "What are y'all thoughts on Garland's Civil War?" I loved it. It's tied for my movie of the year with I Saw the TV Glow. I thought the criticism I saw is a lot of it was both sidesy, or that you don't really get the background of what was happening, was a little ill placed. Yeah, and they kind of extrapolate on that. I watched Alex Garland's Civil War recently. I'm sad I didn't get to see it in a theater. I also thought it was great. I when I watched it, I was like confused that all I had seen for months was people talking about it not taking a side or whatever. And I know that Alex Garland like made some comments about like it's not political or whatever, but just taking the movie as a movie, I was like, it's very clear what this is doing. And it's also just like, I think honestly, I think a lot of the problem is just that the movie is called Civil War when it is just a movie about photojournalism. And I think that like if the movie was called Photojournalists, 1% of the number of people would have gone to see it, but I also don't think that people would have been as up in arms about its perceived lack of politics. But I thought it ruled.
Mm.
Like, it has
I think
at
it's great
least
right now.
as good writing as DMC Devil May Cry, another Alex Garland project.
You know what movie I thought was good and everyone said was good until like the next week when everyone decided to pull some real quick revisionist history?
What movie?
Men by Alex Garland. Oh, that movie was good. It was good stuff.
I don't think I thought that movie was good, but I did think it was interesting.
Yeah,
AJ and I saw that together,
everyone,
actually.
everyone went and saw that movie, and they're like, "That was pretty good." And then the next week, everyone was like, "That movie was fucking atrocious." And I was like, "What are y'all talking about?"
I don't remember the
I
revision,
remember this.
Blake. I think people
I
were
remember
like,
this.
I don't know.
The movie's pretty good. I saw it with my girlfriend at the time, so I am abstained because she also thought it was good. So I'm just saying, Hillary thought it was good. So like, it's not, I got the world of women backing me up on.
She say this happened to my buddy Eric when that guy birthed himself 3 times in a row.
I'm pretty sure that was an homage to Takashi Miike's Gozu, but only real heads would know that. Did you see me tweet the this happened to my buddy Eric one time
Uh,
recap when Eric Adams got indicted? It's maybe the funniest tweet of my Twitter career. So got like 100 likes, no big deal. No, it's playing in Japan right now. I think I'm gonna go see it. That and Joker Folia dope because I hate myself.
Hey,
Have you
that's
seen
how it
Joker?
goes. No, I haven't seen either Jokers. I was actually excited for this one because I was like, hey, I like Lady Gaga, I like musicals, and then apparently it's the worst movie ever made, so I'll not.
I I don't like the original one. I don't like musicals, and I hate to say it, I don't like Lady Gaga, so I can't wait for this one. This is gonna be a real dick flattener.
I saw some movie in theater. Oh, I saw The Substance. Blake, you got to see The
You're going to see it,
Substance.
brother. I know. That director, I can't remember her name, unfortunately. Sorry, I know you're listening, friend of the show. Um, Her film before The Substance, Revenge, I'm a big fan of. It's a cool late era, new French extremity rape revenge movie. It gets some flack, but I
Yeah,
think it's cool.
this
It
one is.
rocks. I got the. Like,
I realized with The Substance, I was like, oh, I'm actually totally okay with gross stuff if it's not like also scary. It's like The Substance is like very yucky, but it's also just like a goofy, like borderline comedy. And so I had a blast with it.
it's got that French swag, Y'all don't travel well, but y'all make some good movies.
I saw the funniest tweet about this that I'm sorry, French people, but it was like people who are saying that The Substance is misogynist. You don't understand. That's just what French feminism is. They're misogynist. Okay, that's how it works.
Oh, all right. Next question. My thoughts on Alex Garland's Civil War are. I think we'll see that soon.
All right, you want to read this one?
Yes, this comes from I don't know, no name. Recently, I've been talking about the podcast with friends and family because I've been wearing my Silent Hill 3 shirt around.
Let's go.
Let's go. And through re-explaining the show over and over again, I've kind of come to just say that rottenness comes from depictions of evil, whether that's bigotry, cruel depictions of murder, or just the good old military industrial complex. It all seems to me like evil is the connective description that fits over everything. But also, evil is pretty vague and couched in a lot of cultural baggage. I know you've had a few questions throughout the run of the show about what rotten actually means, but I'm just curious to know what you feel about the connection to evil.
I
It's
really
interesting.
like this question because I think that we have struggled to be like, what's rotten? Like, well, it has bad vibes or whatever. And I think that like interrogating evil is maybe is a little too like self-congratulatory. Like it makes our podcast sound a little smarter than it is. But like I I really like this idea because I do think that like there are many different versions of evil that we talk
Yeah,
about, but like that is kind of a uniting principle.
for sure. I think when I think about like the concept of our show and interrogating evil, like I'm quick to think of the Call of Duty seasons and perhaps the more literal interrogations of evil, where I find those games to be literally evil.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course there's the games that in like explore evil in a narrative sense. Like it's hard, I don't think as a product, Silent Hill
Right.
2 is evil, but it is exploring an evil. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I've never really like thought. I've never really like tried to define it this way in my mind, but it is interesting because like my knee jerk is to be like, well, no, not really. But then I think about it. It's like, well, each game is exploring its own idea of what evil means, or well, yeah, even Call of Duty is too, and it's foreigners with brown skin, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I
but
was thinking about it's like what doesn't work with this, and I was like, is Iron Lung about evil?
yeah, I guess not. I guess
But
Iron
like
Lung isn't.
it
Like
is
neither,
it is about like hostility, you know?
yeah, but like a fish isn't evil.
Yeah, that's true.
At the
I
bottom of the ocean isn't evil. Just because uh, Anatomy is an evil game, I don't think it's interrogating
right.
evilness. You know what I'm saying? It's just scary. Like those two are the ones that definitely stand out. As like, no, not those, but like,
Yeah,
you
or
know,
like No
how's that?
More Heroes. I would say like Killer 7 is, but No More Heroes is not. Um
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
good. I one of the reasons that I like this framing is I've been listening to the Blank Check podcast, who is currently doing David Lynch, and they've been talking about Twin Peaks, and this understanding that Griffin has kind of come to about Twin Peaks of just like it is about David Lynch trying to understand like the evilness that happens in small towns and in America and whatever, and like specifically when you get to like Firewalk with Me and whatever. And I just like the like attempting to understand evil, I think, is really compelling. And I do think that like that's true of Call of Duty, and it's true of Silent Hill in a very different way, and it's true of like Killer 7 in a third different way. And so it is like I do really like that as a framing. I don't think it works comprehensively, but it's like about as good as anything else we've got.
for sure.
DJ writes in and says, Dear Blacob, although every Call of Duty game comes with a single-player campaign, the reason anyone spends $70 on these games is to get together with the boys, shoot each other in the head, and teabag one another's corpses. Given this, I'm curious to know, can a game's multiplayer be rotten? This question seems especially relevant given the recent controversy surrounding Black Ops 6's new mechanic of grabbing human meat shields and talking to them via proximity chat. Would love to hear you guys' take on this.
Sorry, that's cool, actually.
My only connection to that is our friend Haley McLean, who was like, this is the greatest feature that's ever been in a game.
Yeah, that fucking rocks. I'm sorry to say it. Call of Duty is the most evil video game and game industry history. I also fucking love Call of Duty. I'll play every year. Proximity chat rocks.
Do you remember COD 4 had that mode that was like based on proximity chat? It was almost like a cops and robbers mode. I'm gonna look this up.
Oh no, Warzone 2 added proximity chat, and it was so cool.
Yeah, because it was in Warzone, you could like convince people to kind of join you, right?
Yeah. There was like a whole mechanic for it and everything. Yeah.
That's super cool.
The Last of Us The Last of Us original multiplayer or whatever. That shit was fucking evil because it was just The Last of Us, but against real people. Like it didn't turn into like fucking Call of Duty. Like you still only had like 3 bullets. That shit was crazy. But no, not really. I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this because it feels like there should be good answers, but I feel like a lot of the evilness, if we're talking about evil or rottenness, comes from kind of power imbalances. That like if you think about something like The Darkness, part of that game is like your ability to kill like 30 guys with your, darkness arms, and that you are so much stronger than everyone else. And then Call of Duty, the strength comes from you are a member of the US military. And so then it's like when you get into multiplayer, I sense that a game has to be kind of balanced to be a fun multiplayer game. It seems like that sense of kind of oppression isn't as possible. I mean, I know there's like asymmetrical multiplayer, but still you have to be able to win, Friday the 13th, whether you're Freddy or the survivors.
Did BMX Triple X have multiplayer? That'd be pretty
Blake,
rotten.
You are the one person on Earth who would know that.
Is that story still on Vice? Can people still ever read that? I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking Back for Blood was pretty rotten because that game fucking sucked.
Yeah, remember when we beat that game during the pandemic?
Yeah. One time I was playing that game. Crazy story. When I was living in Minneapolis, I was playing that game, and I just looked out my window while I was playing it, and there was a guy with a gun fucking threatening someone outside my window. I was like, what has happened? So I closed my blinds and
yeah, so you moved to New York where stuff like that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
People are scared of New York. They should be scared of Minneapolis. No, they shouldn't be scared
I've heard
either.
so anyway. There you
All
That's
right.
my story. That's a rotten multiplayer game. You play and you turn around, and you're about to see someone get fucking shot in the head.
Uh, last question from Calmany. Dear Something Rotten, you worried at the climax of Black Ops that swimming up quickly from depth without scuba gear would cause the bends. In case you ever find yourselves in a similar situation, I wanted to let you know that it's breathing compressed air at depth that introduces nitrogen bubbles into your soft tissue, which is what causes decompression sickness. So, whether Mason would suffer a bend, aka get bent, is down to how much air he breathed on the way down while wearing a rebreather. Either way, he could almost certainly be put on oxygen, then taken to a decompression chamber for treatment if he showed symptoms of a bend. I thought that was really interesting. That I didn't know that the bends was specifically related to basically breathing from a tank. That if you're free diving, you're much less likely to get it.
That's real. I just thought it was like you go down deep, somehow nitrogen gets in your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
remember
guess
that
not.
scene in Black Ops? Where
Yeah,
it's like the underground or underwater base, and you explode it and then you swim away.
yeah. How do you feel about the Radiohead album, The Bends?
It's not my like top 3 Radiohead albums, but like
Mm,
I like Radiohead, baby.
I don't really like Radiohead, but I think that album fucking kicks ass. I think there was another question in here that I wanted to answer and I can't find it. Um,
Do you remember what it was about?
no, I'm now back in August 7th. Someone wrote in and said, please give us the nun merch. They also sent a picture of nuns, so that's pretty cool. I've seen it. Probably not going to do that. Sorry. Um, Actually, people are writing in about the nun merch. Graham Walker wants to know. I just thought someone wrote in and asked for more music recommendations, but maybe they didn't. I have like a vague memory of seeing that a little while ago and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna read that one on the show."
Hey, look,
Uh,
Blake, do you have any music recommendations, even if we can't find the question where someone asked about it?
I don't know. The last song I was listening to was "Sucked Out" by Super Drag, so that's fucking it's a pretty good song. What have I been listening to recently? Oh, you know what? I've been listening to the album 10 by West Side Gun. That song fucking or that album rocks. Shootouts in Soho is really good. And then Science Class with Busta Rhymes and Raekwon and Ghostface Killah. That shit's really cool. You following along here, Jacob? You
Oh
with me?
yeah.
I really like the new Noctiluce record. Oh, you know who? Shouts out to my boys in 97 Flood, Louisville, Kentucky. Tay, I love you, brother. I know you're listening. Um, their song, what's it called? How to Disappear Completely. How to Completely Disappear.
You mean the Radiohead song?
No, no, this band is good. Um, How to Disappear Completely Part Two. Yes, because it's a reference to the Radiohead
Ah,
song. That's right. So shouts out to 97 Flood. For the love of God, please go listen to them. It's like apostrophe 97 Flood. Um, Ain't nobody doing it like them right now. Their songs are stuck in my head constantly. So yeah, there you go. If someone wrote in asking for music recommendations, 97 Flood and the Beatles.
yeah. Check out the
I'm
White
going to
Album.
see a I'm going to see a Japanese Beatles cover band in like a week. I'm
Oh,
pretty
that sounds
excited.
great.
We had to like buy tickets and shit. It was awesome. I can't wait. We're going
What
to
you what you gonna do
I
when
think the
Sam
bar is
gets
called
there?
Oh, probably like take a nap. Be real tired. Uh we are God, what can I say on the show? Um I'm taking her to a lot of like spots I think she'll think are cool. Like of course Jimbo Cho, Cohen G. Cohen G is really, really cool. It kind of has an old show vibe to it. So we're gonna go spend some time there. Probably take her to like Higashi Nakano, which is my favorite neighborhood in Japan or in Tokyo. The Koenji coming for the crown. There's a few interesting bars we're gonna go to. There's one called Indian Hit we're gonna go to. It's very like horror and gore themed. So she's ostensibly after the guinea pig movies, which we've talked about on here. So that's pretty cool. Pretty stoked for that. We're gonna go see the Beatles cover band at Bar Strawberry Fields, I think, or something. It's some fucking Beatles song. Um, we're gonna go to some freak places, as couples are wont to do. It's a free country. We can do whatever we want. Don't judge me. Catholics. Yeah, I don't know. Gonna be fun. Oh, we're going to a neighborhood. I don't know the neighborhood. I've never been there, but I don't know if you know this, Jacob. Like, Tokyo has a lot of hyper specific neighborhoods. Like Jimbocho is the book neighborhood. Akihabara is the gamer manga electronics neighborhood. There's one that is just kitchen cutlery.
Wow.
So we're gonna go there. That'll be really cool. Ocha no Mizu, which literally means tea water. Their thing seems to be just instrument shops and snowboard shops. It's really strange. Every now and then you'll just be walking around a neighborhood, or you'll be walking around and you'll realize you're in one of these neighborhoods. And it'll literally be oh, this is the neighborhood where all the just tea kettle stores are. It's so strange.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we're staying in Ryogoku, which if you go to Japan, you might have stayed there. There's a huge Appa hotel there, but it's right next to the big sumo stadium. It's not a lot going on there, but it's next to the river, and I just like eating donuts by the river. So that's why we're staying there.
Sounds good to me. Look, that's our episode. I don't.
Oh, we're doing one more thing.
Okay.
Going to see the Sky Tree, baby. I've been waiting.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been waiting. I see it from so far away, and I want to go so bad, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Sam to be here because I think she'll really enjoy it. So it's been so hard not to go, dude. It's also kind of hard to get to. But yeah.
Blake's gonna go up high. All right, that's it.
And then I'm gonna go down low.
Oh, you come on.
Well, the subway to get.
Oh, okay. Thank you for listening to this episode of Something Rotten. We call these finale, Spec-Ops, Call of Duty season. We talked about those games for 5% of this runtime.
So I was really on one this episode, folks. So
look, Blake hasn't talked to another American human being on a podcast in a week.
On a podcast, that's true. Dude, I've had the experience of speaking in a different language to people on this trip. It's the first time in my life I've done that. Actually conversating in a different language. It's really weird. It's wild to just be I'm talking in not my mother tongue. Have you ever done that before?
Nope, too scared.
Have you ever studied a different language?
I mean, I've studied one in a school, and I took a test on it and was all right, so long, knowledge.
Oh wow!
Look, it sucks. Here. I'm bad. You're better than me.
I'm over here going Nihongo Jozu on their ass. They've never seen a crazy ass white gaijin like this. But here I am.
Yeah, that's probably what they think living in a gamer neighborhood. All right. So long, everyone. Thanks for listening to Something Rotten, and we'll be back next season with a little twist on the Something Rotten formula. Though I don't know when that will be coming out, because as we've said, Blake is in Japan. Things are hard to schedule.
We're watching porn next time. Bye.
Bye.
That'd be crazy to do. That'd be crazy to do a porn season. Can you imagine watching rotten porn?